Wi-Fi. How's it going?
Oh man,
That was arduous.
Matt had a 1 Enneagram Virgo moment. Things aren't working exactly like I want them to, so mini meltdown.
Well, I don't even know if I would call it that.
What would you call it?
You're just perturbed. You didn't have a meltdown. We match.
We do. This is your fault because I was wearing this when I got up.
I just, I really wasn't. It was unintentional. I mean, it looks great, but
it is. It's got a very. We should do this thing at Christmas time, like Christmas time.
I mean, we also match the background, so
that's true.
Look at us. Look at us.
At least you're wearing a sweater. I got just a hoodie from Target.
Well, we work from home. I'm wearing sweatpants, if that helps.
Me too. I think we legit match.
We are 100% matching. The only thing I'm not wearing is Crocs. So there is that.
I guess it's a apropos that we're matching when the topic is to what it is.
It's true.
So I don't know if we want to dive into that first.
It's on brand, I think.
What, let's see, Edelweisses or check-ins?
A few of my favorite things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I have one right off the top of my head. You go first.
I like that we're getting our tree early because Thanksgiving is super late this year, and it was early last year. Like last year was the earliest. It's this weird thing. Last year was the earliest it could be, and this year it's the latest it could be because the first fall fell on a Thursday last year. So with that in mind, we're like, screw it. Let's get our tree and start putting Christmas stuff up at the earliest possible Thanksgiving day, which is this weekend.
I love it.
So we're full sending. Screw it.
We're going to do it. It's maybe my favorite things right now are the simple joys of life.
That's what they should be. That's a daily reminder and gratitude of like, what are the things that I have that are just awesome? So I've been doing that lately. Every morning I write 3 things down that I'm grateful for.
What did you write this morning?
Didn't actually write something this morning, so I really shouldn't have said anything.
What did you write yesterday? You could have just totally not told us that part.
Well, I mean, I'm not trying to be disingenuous. What the habit has been, because sometimes when you do it like one time, you think like big picture stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you have, but the more often I do it, the more I reflect on what was yesterday like. And it's simple as like, I love that I have dogs because I never thought I would have them. And when they annoy me, which is often, usually when I'm pulling up to my desk to work, at least one or all 3 are curled up on the sheepskin that's under my feet or next to me. So I'm like, never thought I would ever have that. And I super love it. A lot of times it's this room because we've been dreaming about a library, and a lot of things I'm realizing are things that you have made happen in my life. So every like 3rd or 4th day I reflect, I'm like, you know what? This is all Jeannie's doing. So she should make the top 3 today.
Well, I always want to be the top 3. And I didn't make this happen on my own, and be careful because I have already requested that we're painting this coming weekend. So,
I forgot about that.
Yeah,
but that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm thankful we have a room to paint then. You know what I mean? It's just the way I got to look at it.
Yeah. I've been having a lot of gratitude, really. I mean, this is present often and even more so in the recent weeks for our community, for this community, for all the incredible students that we have and how beautifully they show up for themselves and for each other. And I didn't have that 8 years ago when I just felt so devastated. And now, we have a place and a platform to connect with each other and talk about these things. So I that is definitely my Edelweiss.
Maybe we should change the name. I don't know. Is there a difference between what is your favorite thing or what are you grateful for? I mean, I guess I don't know. The
Yeah.
idea of the Edelweiss was like, what has popped up in your last week that you're like, this is awesome. So
Yeah.
but who knows? Maybe we're ironing out the details of our segments.
We are. I mean, I'm grateful for Icelandic yogurt. How about that?
Oh, there you go.
Or that's a favorite thing right now.
Awesome.
I
Is that
really
the
love that.
Siggies?
Yeah.
Shout out.
Shout out for Siggies. Yeah, because like I am horrible at remembering to eat food. Until I'm like starving and kind of like out of it. Like my brain is just like, well,
like you remember to eat too late.
Yeah.
It's like, I would like this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, if you thought of that 45 minutes ago, I could have made that happen. But now it's not possible.
Well, now I don't have 45 minutes.
Or
because I'm going to faint.
Yeah. Or it's like, I need to eat now or everything, the day has to stop. I'm like, wow. Okay. Which still baffles me. I don't know how you do that. Because I do not.
And it's weird because I love food. So it's not like I get wrapped up in doing other stuff. And then it seems arduous to stop the flow of what I'm doing to like go deal with food.
Yep.
So I'm just like, forget it. Yeah.
Okay.
I was way better at it actually when we worked outside of the house. Like,
right.
And I think when we were teaching high school, like you eat when it's your lunch break or that's it. Like you don't actually have a choice. So you have to figure out what you're doing about food.
Oh, see, like after year 3, I stopped caring about that. Like if I was hungry during first block, it's like I would break the breakfast out. Like whether sometimes I was still eating like yogurt with fruit and granola in it, I'm like, I'm eating this. I don't care. Like I'm just doing it. Or it's, I have 2 blocks before lunch, but I have some pizza wrapped up in tinfoil. I'm like, I'm going to eat this 1 slice cold because I'm starving and this is what's just going to happen today. And everyone's going to have to deal. And it was never a problem.
No, I never could like eat and teach at the same time. Oh, I'm going to sneeze.
Josh, cut that out.
Do I have boogers now?
Literally. You look great, honey. Yeah, eating is arduous for you. It's crazy.
Yeah, so being able to just like throw yogurt in a bowl and add fun stuff in it, like it feels a little bit like back where there was prolific amounts of froyo places all over, which now apparently we're over froyo to drive to Elmira.
Yeah, I don't like. I mean, I enjoy. It tasted good, but it didn't.
It's not good for your tummy.
Dairy, I just can't eat it.
Yeah.
Somehow I don't have the gene that makes dairy enjoyable.
It's so fascinating though because you will eat cheese.
Oh, I love cheese.
But it's like ice cream.
Yeah.
Yogurt, like froyo and ice cream just wreck you. But you eat cheese fine. I don't know.
Jesus Christ. It just destroys you.
It just destroys you. It's your kryptonite. Oh my God. Is froyo.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
All right. This is not what we're here to talk about.
No, it's not. What are we here to talk about? This is a shameless plug episode.
It is. It's a shameless plug episode. Well, I mean, yes and no, because this is just an opportunity to come together also as a community. It's not like we're pitching a course.
No, no. Right. This is no. Yeah. I think anything where I talk about what I'm about to do and I want people to check it out, I call it a shameless plug. You have more experience than that doing that than I do. So.
Yeah. You think of it all as like a pitch.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah. Which I'm not great at.
Yeah. Not a salesman.
No, I'm not. I'm just kind of like, well, this is. If anyone else wants to get on board to try to sharpen this up, feel free, but I have a hard time. Anyway, what do we...
So in the weeks in between Thanksgiving and Yule, we're going to hold weekly relationship chats. So
3 total? Is that right?
Yeah, totally free.
No. 3 of them.
Oh, 3. Yes.
Not to be
3.
Not 3.
3 total. The intention is, for one, like just holidays in general can be a little bit of a squeeze. There's also just tremendous amounts of tension, pressure in the world right now. I think we're all collectively feeling that. And what's true is like often those things that are are giving us this experience of tension and stress and a squeeze are not necessarily things that we can address. We can't go to work and express our tension, stress, and frustration in a professional place. We try to hold it together for kids, particularly when they're young in the house. So it's like, where does this come out? It can sometimes come out in the ways that we interact in relationship, where it's like, I'm a little bit more snarky than usual, or I'm more easily agitated than usual. You're, mad about the position of the cameras than that we're setting up for the podcast.
I wasn't mad. Well,
you said you had a meltdown.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like stress comes out, and like, where does it come out? It comes out with your person. So
really did. While I was setting up, I'm thinking of what angle to put where. I'm like, if I put it here, the camera can be here. But if I had to put it here, and you said something like, "Well, you're trying to get your bookshelves in the background." I'm like, I'm trying to. So I just had that moment where I'm like, I got like a little defensive. And then,
even though it wasn't a shot,
no,
I was just like, that doesn't work. You're trying to get like,
no, I know
the background.
But it was funny. It was that moment where like I felt all those like stories and feelings, and just like, and then I was like, nah, that's not what this is about.
It's not what this is about. It's not what this is about. Yeah.
Then usually once I realize that and get over it, I chuckle at myself.
Of course. I mean, that's the ideal, right? Is like, so a lot of our chats over those 3 weeks will be, of course, centered around like a specific topic and kind of way that we approach things in our relationship. And also an invitation for people to talk about what has worked and hasn't worked for them. I think that there are not a whole lot of places where, at least not in my world, and I think that we're pretty tapped into a wide, like a breadth of a group of people, and very rarely do we sit down and talk about like, well, what's working in your marriage? Like how's your marriage working out?
That's a really good point. I think we as a community of people, right? I mean, like even your friend circle, right? Where we get together and, how are you? How's things? And usually what rises to the top is what has been frustrating or hard lately before you focus on your victories or what's great in your life, stuff like that. I think, and not to say it's not bad, like that's what community is for, and that's what your friends are for that support. But we often lose sight of what has been working. And also, maybe we mentioned this on our own podcast. Speaking of shameless plug. Mutual victory, that a lot of issues about relationship and how to be in a relationship, for me anyway, weren't explicitly taught. Like I never got sat down to say, here is an example, like here is how you deal with conflict in a relationship. Here is how you navigate any sorts of things that could come up in not even a relationship, but let alone a marriage, right? Like that just wasn't discussed. So I think for me, and I would guess a lot of other people, the lessons were just observed. Like you just watched whoever was in front of you.
Yeah.
And you gleaned from that. Either sometimes things were like, ooh, I definitely don't want to be that way. And then sometimes you got, oh, well, like I realized I'm behaving in our relationship because I witnessed that in my parents.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think for the majority of us, we're not like, there isn't a relationship 101 when you're an adolescent, when you're in your mid to late 20s, like when you're really thinking about how do I want to be, who do I want to be in a relationship, there's just a huge lack of resources that include people talking about it. I think I'm like, what would be a really fun project to come across or to find is that scene at the end. I mean, it's like the credits scene of When Harry Met Sally, which is like one of our favorite movies to watch.
You know what? Destroyed me.
What?
Not
Oh,
really.
yes,
Destroyed
yes,
you.
yes. I know
No,
what you're
no.
gonna say.
This is we're not saying about the actors in the movie.
Oh, what?
I don't know. I think I was doing the transcripts of a class, like
Uh-huh.
Kundalini Warrior, and you were talking about When Harry Met Sally. You may have said that you could watch that movie weekly.
Yeah.
I know.
Why
I
did that
could
destroy
too.
you?
What?
Why did that destroy you?
Because in my head, I'm like, I can too. Why have we not been doing this? Like, usually when I watch
I mean, there's other things we have to do
that
in
movie,
our lives.
we watch that movie probably together once, maybe twice a year.
Mhm.
Outside of that, especially when you leave or like go on a retreat or something, I
Mhm.
watch it at least another 1 or 2 times. So like I watch that movie probably 10 times a year, twice with you. Now I'm like, what are we doing?
I'm like, why are you watching this without me?
Maybe
I'm so
we
annoyed
shouldn't
right
give a
now.
relationship talk because this is a fundamental failure in communication.
Well, I'm like, I think it might have been last weekend when you were doing work and I was doing schoolwork, and we were like parallel playing on the couch. And I think was that when we turned on a Harry Potter movie?
Yeah, I think
And it was
so.
just kind of like on.
Right.
Or no, that was when we were puzzling.
Yeah.
I don't know when it was, but there was parallel working going on. And
maybe it was last weekend. I was writing in the library and you were in the room doing schoolwork. And like we were both just up here tapping away.
right, but we were at our desks,
Yeah.
and I had the thought then, I was like, kind of want to just like go downstairs and turn on When Harry Met Sally and just have it on so that we can be doing this work. But I don't want to sit at my desk anymore. I'm over it. Anyway, that was a tangent.
Well, and also it's like I'm just constantly learning things about you.
Forever and always, babe.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So
it's a
anyway,
bonus to being married to a Scorpio.
To go back to the point you brought up about the movie.
Yeah, the part at the end in the credit scene, which I thought you were going to bring up, is the fact that they're all actors and they're not really in relationships with each other,
with the couples,
which broke my heart when I found it out.
Yeah, I was also severely disappointed by that.
But it was just like story after story after story of how they met and how long they've been together. Very, very cute, right? And I'm like, I want story after story after story of couples who have been together and they've found a thing that works for them, you know, and not like in a preachy kind of like, this is the way to like do relationships, right? But like, this is a kink we worked out. This is a way that we came to an agreement and did so in a very collaborative way. Because what I love about relationship, whether it's intimate partnership or friendship, is how very often when we find solutions to things in a relationship, it is a collaboration. And that's like mutual victory. That's like co-op game. I love that so much. I want everything to be collaborative. And I know that it's not the most efficient way to do things. So nobody has to agree with me about this, but.
Well, I mean, you know, there's collaboration, but someone is sometimes, and maybe in the workplace really, right? Where yes, there's welcome collaboration and someone's in charge. Because it's just the way it is.
Ultimately, right? Usually that's how.
And that's how I view our marriage. It's a collaboration, but someone's in charge.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Well, I hope you do, because it's you that.
that's maybe mine. I'm like, I don't like it. I don't like that. But fortunately, I am a benefic leader.
Benevolent despot that you are.
And I have, you know, very strong values that are aligned with equal power and collaboration. So even if you're going to defer to me, it's going to be a little, I'm going to send it back, a little ping pong back at you. Yeah, because I just think that so many couples out there have their like tricks and their ways.
Right.
And I'm looking forward to that part of these conversations. Like, I'm really looking forward to people putting in the chat and unmuting and being like, this is a thing that we landed on together that really works for us.
Right. And I didn't really think of that as part of these talks, which you have been wanting me to participate in something like this for YFI.
Yeah.
And I've constantly been
You gonna know?
No. What am I going to say? What am I going to offer? This is silly. But now I'm like, this is how you treat everything. This is my opportunity to learn something.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
like, not just to be like, hey guys, sign on. Like, what do you got for me? I'm here to listen to only you, right? But I do love the idea of like, hey, what are the tricks that worked for you? Like, the one thing I remember reading, I don't know, it was a meme or something, which is sad. This is the only place I'm gleaning this information. This old couple said basically, every single night they went to sleep, went to bed, even and especially on nights where they had a fight, disagreement, they would always touch feet in bed.
Mm-hmm.
This is like, regardless of how mad they were at each other, as a reminder that I'm still here and I love you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like every night.
Oh, it's funny. Our brains must have been syncing up because I had this thought. Was it yesterday or the day before? I was like, you know what? Sometimes when I'm mad at you, I like curl up in my blankets and I'm like, I'm over here in my cocoon, right? But I'm not going to do that anymore because I like to cuddle with you. So even when I'm mad at you, just be ready. I'm like, who's this benefiting? Nobody.
Right.
This isn't helping anything. Like, so I'm just gonna mad cuddle with you.
That's a good reflection.
Yeah.
Like, am I doing this? What's the intention? Is it because I'm trying to withhold something from someone, or because I am doing what I need right now in the moment?
Yeah, and I think like I'm a withdrawer.
Same.
Withdrawer. Where like when I'm really amped up or upset or stressed or frustrated, like I don't want to spray that all over the place. Like I really want to do some processing. And so I can get like physically withdrawn as well as like up in my head. And that's just not awesome. And so it's a habit that like I'm like I really want to break this habit of withdrawing into myself because I can't solve anything or come to any kind of an agreement or an understanding if I'm just having an on loop conversation and building evidence of why I'm mad at you. Like that's not helpful. It's not helpful at all.
Yeah. It's also good because not also good, but you did recently tell me the thing I do that makes you the maddest at me.
Oh, I did?
Yeah. Which was surprising because we don't get mad at each other a whole lot. So to have something, I was like, oh my God, what could this be? It's when we're in like Target or the supermarket and we have a cart and I'm pushing it and I run it into the back of your heels.
Oh my God.
I was like, whew, that's easy.
Yeah.
I can avoid that. That's not that bad.
That's like the only time I think that I have like this physiological like rise up of rage. I want to like turn around and yell at you. I don't really have that experience often about anything, honestly. I might get like grumpy or agitated, but like instant I want to yell.
Yeah.
No, that's just not my way. Awesome. But I realized that like I'm like, oh, and probably the only reason that I catch myself in it is because we're in public. I want to turn around and be like, what the fuck are you doing?
It's good because
but that would be horrible and so embarrassing. So I would not actually do that.
Right, but it's one of those things also where like I would have it coming. I wasn't paying attention and I was pushing the car. It's fair.
Yeah.
I would feel like that's a fair response. I mean, maybe not if you screamed at me in public, but I mean, if you were just like fair, I get it, my bad. Then I would be a jackass and stay 50 feet away from you.
You absolutely would. You would try to turn it into a bit.
I would. 100%.
Yeah. But I've also realized that this is not, I mean, the running over the back of my foot, like running into my heel or the back of me when we're shopping is the thing that the kids would do because they just weren't paying attention. So it had to do with that.
Yeah. How much shit are you get mad at me for the rest of our lives and thus far? Because this children did it 20 years ago. And now it's like, oh, the children did this thing. And now I'm mad at you for it.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, it's all right.
And I think I realized recently too that it's not a good idea for me to shop with other people. It's not a you thing, actually. It's a me thing.
Really?
Like because it is the place where I end up the most agitated with you. The exceptions would be when you have had a little bit of whiskey in your coffee and we go to Home Goods, because then you're just like Daddy Warbucks. You're like,
Yeah.
let's go.
Well, I mean, not only that, I just don't. Almost, especially in Home Goods, everything you pick up. You sure?
I know, because there's nothing you need in Home Goods, really. I mean,
Right.
it's all nice to have, but there's no needing happening for the most part at Home Goods.
And then that one time we did it. God, was it last fall? It might have been, or in the springtime. Definitely, I think it was my idea. I was like, "Do you want to give me some whiskey, and then we can go to Home Depot, Home Goods?" And you were like, "Oh yes, yeah." And then
it was a year ago because we bought a pink Christmas tree for Luna's room.
And yeah, and you don't get the you don't get those looks at all.
There's no question. Everything's a great idea. And the other exception is last year around the holidays, we decided we were just going to go shopping with each other for our gifts.
Right. Like we were, instead of spending parts of days throughout the month of December
separately shopping for each other,
we're just like, why don't we just both go together and get what we want, and then we'll wrap it under the tree, because I love that.
And half the time we forget we forget a little bit. Like, oh right, we did pick that out. Like, what amazing.
Yeah, that was a fun day.
It was so fun. But for the most part, it's not a good idea for me to shop with other people.
No.
Because I just want to move at the pace I want to move. And that's most of the time not the pace other people are moving at. That's true universally for me, and definitely when shopping. And I'm not a big shopper, so I'm not good at it in the way that, like, I can get distracted. I don't have a solid plan.
You know what this conversation is reminding me of? Probably didn't talk about it in this podcast. The movie. Speaking of a Billy Crystal movie, Forget Paris.
You love that movie.
I do. I really like it. It's up there. I mean, I referenced it a lot because when we talk about relationship.
Yeah.
And that was a movie that was shown. I went to Notre Dame High School in Lawrenceville, New Jersey. And 4 years there, every year we had a religion class. And junior or senior year, it was like the sacraments, I think. I don't remember much, but I do remember when we talked about marriage, it was not a preachy, this is what marriage is according to the Catholic Church. This is what marriage should be. It was like, it was an honest discussion about how, like, you do relationship. He even started at like, well, how do you, like, what does dating look like? Who asks whom? Who pays for what? And we were all just like, why are we talking about this? And then he asked these questions, and we, as like 16-year-olds, had like no answers. And he's like, see, you stupid children, please listen. But we did watch that movie, because if you haven't seen it, I like it. It's he and Deborah Winger. They meet in Paris, have a whirlwind kind of romance, and then decide to get married and try to keep the marriage together over years, and job changes and moves and stuff like that. But the one scene, right, where like that is, it's like she comes back from Paris to his place, and they decide to, like, she decides they want to try to be married and stay together, and they don't even have she launches into like, so what do you do with the toothpaste? Do you squeeze it from the middle or like the end of it? He's like, I squeeze it from the middle. And she's like, I hate that. And there was like a scene with like questions like that, asking each other those things. And you think they're just these innocuous day-to-day mundane things.
Very important things.
They're actually really important things when you're talking about a lifetime together. So I always think of that. And another reason why I think these discussions are interesting and fun to have, it's like, you don't have them anywhere else. Like, you know what I mean? Who is having these with not only young people, but like, I'd like to hear how people have had those discussions, or like, when did you learn these things, or like, how do you deal with things that you think are deal breakers but are actually not, or like stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I love that you brought that up, because I had the thought that one of the weeks where we're having these relationship chats, like, that be an assignment, like not that this is a course, but like an invitation to watch that movie
Yeah.
and to do that kind of thing with each other. Like, what are some things? What are the pet peeves? And I was thinking about it, and then I saw that clip with Hugh Grant talking about how he's like the king of pet peeves, like everything just drives him crazy, right? And he's a grumpy old man kind of thing. Grumpy little man is what he called himself. And I think that is a really important conversation to have in a relationship, but also an important piece of self-awareness, like, which is ultimately the gift, if you choose in relationship, is that it gives us these opportunities to deepen into self-awareness and to like check it almost like, oh yeah, this is my autopilot. Like, how is that working out? Is it really beneficial that I like cocoon up when I'm mad? And is that a habit that I want to continue to have in my life or shift it? And that's what relationship does, is it gives us this mirror opportunity to be like, oh, wow, yeah, I definitely want to look at that deeper.
Yeah, and it's hard because a lot of that information that you get from someone you're in a relationship with about that, like, it oftentimes comes at a moment of stress or tension and starts with the phrase "you always,"
Yeah.
or "you do this thing."
You know what you do?
When if you were not in that kind of mood, maybe you would hear it with some sort of grace and listen, as opposed to feeling so attacked in the moment about, well, in when you do this thing and then you behave like this, and here's how it makes me feel. And sometimes you said stuff to me, I'm like, is that really what I do? Because it's not what I think I look like or sound like, but I wouldn't know until you tell me.
Yeah.
Which is a hard time. Sometimes it's hard to learn that in certain moments. When is a good time to hear
feedback is hard.
Yeah.
Like, we're not, talk about a thing we're not trained well to receive. Or we're just not trained in feedback a whole lot. And our like muscle memory around feedback and the way that our brain works to hold on like the negative aspects of it, it's like we remember getting in trouble at school. We remember getting in trouble at home. Like, it turns into a disempowered reactivity when somebody gives us feedback.
Well, I
so
think of playing sports. You know what I mean? Like, if you're lucky, you have a coach that can handle delivering feedback with grace. But I mean, how often? You know what I mean? Like, sometimes it's like if anyone's played sports for a long time, you always had the coach that would do the yelling, or like the teammates that would get on you. And sometimes you take that. Does that feedback have to be that way and delivered that way for what you want to happen after? You know what I mean? It's like, how likely is someone going to listen when they feel like an entire group of people is now calling them out, not just your partner? You know what I mean?
Well, it's an interesting parallel too, because it's like when you're receiving feedback from a teacher, right? It can be hard to hear, period. And you're going to hear it differently if you care about the relationship with that teacher or the subject that you're learning, or like what the end goal is. Receiving feedback like you're in trouble with your parents often brings up a whole bunch of like unhealed stuff within us. So like we want to avoid that parallel when you're receiving feedback in relationship. I didn't play sports. I mean, like a very brief moment in time doing swim team, but like I just never was sporty spice. So the example I have is in theater and being in drama club, because you're up on the stage and you're delivering lines and a director is going to be like, no, don't do it that way. Like deliver it in this tone. And you're like, oh, geez. Okay. Like now I have to like rewind, do it again. Or vocal performance, choirs, having musical directors basically being like, you sound like crap, do it again. But you're so invested in the outcome, like you are, I imagine, on a sports team as well. It's like you want to win, you want to do better, you want your team to work well together, and most people want to actually win a game. And so like the same thing, like you want your production to be good. You want people to enjoy the performance. You don't want their ears to be assaulted. So you listen to the feedback and you make corrections. In a relationship, it's like isolated.
Hmm.
Like it's you and me, babe. So, I can decide that I don't like your feedback. And unless you really care about the longevity of this game or this production, it's easy to be like, that's their opinion. You have to be able to check yourself.
Yeah, especially like marriage. There are no real seasons. Not like the season's over.
Well,
there's one long season.
There's eras. Maybe there's eras.
Eras. It's good.
It's a little longer,
Yeah.
I think that people think that there are seasons in relationship, though.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't know they're over until you look back. You're like, oh yeah, that was a time.
Oh right,
that was a span.
That was a. Well, I think about like the relationship advice, like don't do something at the beginning of a relationship that you're unwilling to keep up with for the remainder of the relationship, right?
That's yeah.
You think about that one.
It's tricky.
When I'm like, we're always changing though. So, like I can be in the both and. Like I can think fondly about the period of time where you would stop by my office and you would bring me soup from the gas station. I know it sounds gross, but like it was literally the best soup ever. And you write me a little note like on my desk because I would still be teaching. I'd be, with my students. And so you'd like sneak into my office, leave lunch, leave a little note. And so like I can have like nostalgic, like, oh, but I don't feel like the absence of that now is an indicator that something has ended. Like I don't have that story of like, oh, that was the honeymoon period in a relationship. Because I feel like those things happen, they just happen differently.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's tricky about not doing something in the beginning, because if I spent the first 3 weeks bringing you coffee in bed and then afterwards was like, you know what, that was never a thing that was just a hook that was
a hook.
Yeah, it was something to get you in. That would lead towards false advertising. I think that's like, that wouldn't be like, oh, that era is over. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think I personally cooked so much more in the earlier parts of our relationship.
Yeah, you didn't. Yes, it's true. And the children are to thank for that.
Yeah, it wasn't a hook. It was just like this was I was the parent in the household and the children needed to eat food.
The
second
they were halfway out the door, that decreased by about 80%.
It did. Well, there was also an era of time when I was teaching at SUNY Cortland where I was teaching a lot in the evening too, and like the cooking dipped quite a bit, like, and fell way more into your lap because you were home, because you were still like, you were teaching during the day. So yeah, it's tricky to be like, let's not set up things that we're unwilling to do, and also be aware that relationships are going to shift and change. Household dynamics are going to shift and change. Like there is this consistent ebbing and flowing that goes on.
Yeah. Every now and then I have to reflect on that. Just like, for how resistant I could be and have been to change throughout my life. It's just wild that like it's only going to happen more, and it's just so wild how we, as I think people, country, whatever, however we view marriage or relationship, how often we are unwilling to recognize that our partner is gonna, there's going to be a lot of change. And I think there's often resistance to that, or surprise,
fear around it. Like, what does that mean? How am I going to fit?
Yeah, right.
How is this going to impact their feelings about me and our, I think it's just fear around the unknown.
And it's just why, I mean, I don't know. it's just wild to me sometimes to think about like, well, it's been 10, 12 years and like reflecting on how much change has gone on. Like we could have another 50. It's like it's kind of scary, but then I'm like, yeah, there's no other way, man. This is just how it is. So embrace it.
Yeah, and my thought around it is not like, hey, is how it is. It's like, well, how nice that like the change that's inevitably going to happen in life gets to be shared. I think like that is mutual victory. It's an element of it. So I don't know, like we're however many minutes, 40 minutes into the podcast. We are teaching this 3-week relationship conversation type of class. I don't even want to call it a class because that I think it alludes to like we know all the things and we're going to share them with you and that's just not true. Relationships are so individual and so ever changing, as we were just saying. We have this setup and the course is called Mutual Victory Relationship Talks, and Mutual Victory is the title of our separate podcast from work, and Mutual Victory is like our marriage mantra, motto,
mantra,
slogan,
right? If we had our combined crest, family crest, it would be on there.
Do you want to tell the story of Mutual Victory?
Oh, is that what we're doing now?
Sure.
I thought that was the name of the first relationship talk. I don't know if we're gonna.
Well, I mean, not the story of where Mutual Victory came from in our relationship.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. When we had more time, when we were not as busy as we are, we played a lot of board games. That was a thing that I realized I was not quite the gamer before we met. I mean, I realized I liked these games. I just didn't have anyone to play them with. And then once we met, and I was like, "How do you feel about board games?" You were like, "Yes, definitely."
Well, because I grew up, my grandmother and I would play board games constantly. They weren't cool board games, but they were, the board games of the like we were playing Sorry, we were playing Parcheesi, backgammon. Like Nana was all about the board games. We had in my grandfather's office were like 3 shelves full of family board games.
That's fun.
And we would just pull them out and play pretty consistently.
So once I realized that you were down, that was like floodgates opened. All types of weird, different, nerdy board games started arriving at home. And one we had was called Dominion. It was a deck building game, just all using different cards and stuff. And we played this game one time, and we tallied the score, and we were tied. You loved it. You're like, "Oh, we tied. This is wonderful." Where I'm like, "Bull crap. There's going to be a winner. I don't care if it's me. It doesn't have to be me."
He pulled out the instructions.
There's going to be
looking like, what happens? What do you do when there's a tie?
A lot of these games are like, here is how you tally up the points. You tally up this thing. Whoever has the most wins. If there's a tie, you tally up this other thing. Then whoever has most of that is the winner. And then in this game, there were at least 2 different criteria where it said, all right, most amount of victory points is the winner. If you're tied, whoever has the most of this type of card is the winner. If there's still a tie at the end of this, and I think the actual quote is,
it is declared.
Rejoice in the shared victory.
Rejoice in the shared victory.
I read that out loud, and I can only imagine my disappointment that was coming through my voice. Rejoice in the shared victory. Oh, it's a tie. And you loved it so much.
I was so excited.
It immediately got rid of any disappointment I had that this, in fact, was going to be a tie, because you were just so cute and how much you loved the fact that shared victory.
Mutual victory.
And then that phrase became that mantra, that motto evolved into mutual victory. And that was just like how we approached lots of things. I mean, what are we here to do? Mutual victory. What's best for either one of us could be best for the team, so to speak.
Putting the we before the me. Yep. I love it. I love it so much. It's such a 9 thing to love too.
It
Like,
is. And now the only reason I like it is because I have a 9 wing. That's the only thing that has a toe hold
mm,
on
mm.
ties in any way.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I love it. And so yeah, so it became our and continues to like to
Right.
this
And this
day
was
to be.
early on. This was like year 1.
Yeah,
Were we
very,
living?
very early on in
I
dating.
don't know if we were living together. Maybe we were,
I don't think
barely.
so.
Yeah, this was
It might have been where we were not living together, but you
right.
were not ever going home.
Right.
Like all your stuff was someplace
I hadn't
else.
moved in yet, but I was not sleeping in my place for
Right.
weeks.
Um so when we were engaged and you had purchased my engagement ring at this place in Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
Um and we went back there to get our wedding bands from them because it was a cute old couple and we're suckers for cute old couples. Very small family run business. They were just the cutest things ever. And he was really helpful to you when you were
Very much. Yeah.
like designing my engagement
Yep.
band and like going through that process.
Yeah,
So
it was great.
um
I think when I found it, I just typed in like different unusual wedding rings
mhm,
or wedding bands into Google, and the place was literally called Unusual
wedding rings.
Unusual Wedding Rings.
Yeah.
I'm like, well,
In Pittsfield?
this is a 45-minute drive. This was meant to be.
Meant to be. Um And he was very, very sneaky in this process, by the way, because I remember looking back at one point, he was like, well, I have to go to Massachusetts and return a cable box or something. It was something like that you had to do in Massachusetts. And I was like, what? Why are you doing this today? It just sounded so weird. And then I was like, whatever. I don't know what he's doing. And then once obviously you proposed, I was like, oh, that's what you were doing in Massachusetts. And we ordered our wedding bands. They were making them. We had to wait for them, probably like 6 weeks, I think.
Mhm.
Like it was quite a bit of time. And somewhere in there, you had either called. Did you call them or did you go down there?
I don't know. No recollection.
No recollection. And so when we went to pick up our wedding bands, which we did together, inside our wedding bands is engraved Mutual Victory. And so I didn't know that you were doing that until we went to pick it up, and so it's like it's in here. It's written in gold.
It is engraved on this thing that is impressed on my finger and has been for over a decade.
It's
actually it is over a decade because we got them in October and we were getting married that January.
And we started wearing them immediately.
Immediately.
The best part is that here we are, we're adults, we're in our 30s, like early 30s, but like we are grown-ups. And we go to New Jersey to visit your parents. And we're in the car and you're like, we got to take our wedding bands off. We got to take them off because we're not married yet. I'm like, what? Why? This is the silliest thing. This is the silliest thing.
Well, yeah, it was October when we started wearing them. So it's been 10 years.
Yeah. Yep. So, Mutual Victory. I'm just excited to be in the company of a group of people who are in relationship at whatever point in relationship, and that want to have these conversations about what could the hurdles be? Sure. And also what does work? What has been working? Because like you said, I think there aren't places where we talk about this. We don't often talk to our friends about relationship dynamics unless there is something going on.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, also, and I was just thinking, not to interrupt, sorry. We just learned that your cousin is engaged and has a date, marriage date. How many talks is he going to have are they going to have with people, either parents, mentor figures, about what's marriage like? How do you do it? What has worked for you? I mean, I don't know the answer to that. maybe, but I
Yeah.
mean, who knows if they have that type of people have that type of relationships with the community around them to have these conversations, or is it like, a lot of times you have these talks with other people when things aren't great, and it's not preventative. It's like, how do you handle relationship things? It's more of like, oh, this thing is a thing now, I
Right.
gotta
Right. Like, where's the
address it.
proactive
Yeah.
nature of having a space to talk about this? And I mean, I can say that with my friends who are female identifying, like, they're better at being like at celebrating victories that are going on in their relationships, and they're also better at um bringing up what is hard and like kind of crowdsourcing solutions, or like, does this happen to other people, like, are we doing something wrong? And I do believe that men lack these spaces to hear from other men in not a like complainy blamey type of a way, but like, being in relationship is hard, and how can we support each other in being in relationship? um and I even think about the structure of, I was thinking about this the other day, right? Like, when you get married, right, you're supposed to have a best man, right, and a maid of honor, and your best man and your maid of honor are kind of supposed to be this person like that you check in about relationship things with. You had a best woman,
Mm-hmm.
because your sister was
Yep.
your second, and uh whatever that person is in your life, like, that's a built-in structure that I don't even think that we talk about that original intention. Like, it was, yes, somebody needed to be a witness for it
Mm-hmm.
to be a legal and binding like contract in the structure of a marriage in that way, and a wedding ceremony. And also it's supposed to be the person that's going to hold your feet to the fire a little
Yeah.
bit. And culturally, we're just not really good at doing that with one another. I think that we need a little bit more support and a little bit more encouragement to be like, I have a question, I want you to be complete, I don't want you to say to me what you think that I
Right.
want to hear,
Yeah. Being held accountable
yeah.
is not a go-to.
Right.
I mean, as
Right.
far as uh, I'll speak for the masculine side of the relationships. I mean, there's definitely like there's airing of grievances, right? There's the complaining and the holding space for that and listening. Um, the holding accountable, it's not as often as maybe it should.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, what I think is true, I don't know if this is true, but it's a projection that I have, is that because your sister was your best woman and stood up with you in our wedding ceremony, I do think that she would hold you accountable. Like, I think that
Mm.
if you called her and you were like, Jeannie has lost her shit, like, I don't know what's going on with her, I like, she's mad at me all the time, whatever your complaint would be,
Right.
she yelled at me for running the shopping cart into her leg, like, I do believe
Yeah.
that your sister would be like, well, why did you do that? Like,
Yeah,
I
I
have,
agree 100%.
because of that relationship that you have. And is everybody that conscious? I think Carrie was my maid of honor in our wedding, and if I called Carrie, because I think this is an interesting component too, um because Carrie also is close with you
Mm-hmm.
and a friend of
Yep.
yours. I think if I called her and I was like, Matt is pissing me off, like, it would not turn into a like, let's crap all over Matt fest. It would turn into like, okay, so what do we know about him? What do we know about this dynamic and situation? And there would be an open conversation. But I don't think a lot of people have that. I think that there are concerns sometimes with our close friends when they come to us about relationship stuff, that we're like, we don't want to get involved. We don't want to
Mm-hmm.
get, like, it's none of our business to tell people. We've been rewatching Ted Lasso because I needed something like that is funny and where people are being kind to each other. And caring about each other, and there's character development, and that is like a whole part of it is you get to watch human development in a very short period of time. And there is that scene where Higgins is being honest with Coach Beard, like he's having reactions around Beard's choice in relationship, and people are like, what are you doing?
Don't say anything.
You don't say anything, and I think that is also part of our culture. So it's like, who are the people in your life? Where are the opportunities in your life to be like, is that working out for you guys? Like, is this the vibe? This is what we're going to keep doing? And not trying to say or figure out how to say what that person wants to hear.
Yeah.
Because that's not right. It's not always about what we want people to say to us. And there is a missed opportunity to hear what we maybe need to hear in that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
And we get to finally do a course together. I'm so excited.
You are. You have been patient with me. This is one of the reasons why I like picking your brain and talking to you about things, especially because you have your point of view. You see me from the outside, whereas I see me only from this point of view. So I will often reflect, well, how does it seem to other people? What does Jeannie think? Right. So you, of course, are like, we should do this. We should try this. And I'm like, no, what am I doing? No, thank you. No. I think it was turning 45. Part of me is like, you know what? If things are going to happen, if I want this to be a thing, a year of like what's possible, the answer has to be yes. And not even begrudgingly. I'm not saying like, well, I said I'd say yes. It's like, no, I am on board with yes to see what becomes of everything that's possible.
So this is your year of yes.
Yeah. Don't make me regret this already.
I was just getting clear. I was just getting clarification. I
also,
didn't have an agenda.
Clear, you don't hear no a lot from me.
I don't think ever.
Yeah. But yes, no, I'm committed to being like, you know what? I'm sick of not worrying, but like being in my own head about like, well, what if it doesn't blah? What if it doesn't blah? Like, who cares? I don't care anymore. I'm sick of my ego trying to get in the way. Let's just do it. Love it.
Well, it's intentionally stretching the comfort zone.
Yeah.
Like nothing is going to shift, and you can't even really know what you're capable of if you want to stay in your comfort zone all the time. And yeah, well, I mean,
this is the year's going to happen more.
Yeah, I love it.
All right.
Well, I hope everyone who is curious, is interested, is in relationship or starting a relationship or wants to be in a relationship joins us, and we get to have this really sweet, supportive, like community within community around a particular topic. And I mean, I'm not going to even try to pretend that I don't have an agenda of hoping that more people who are masculine identifying land in Yoga Farm. Like, it's a total babe fest over here. Like, it is. And we've got that divine feminine energy going, and it's beautiful, and I love it. And I would love to have more examples of that sacred masculine, and not just even divine feminine, sacred masculine, which seems so like lofty, but like balanced, because we all have these things, and like we get to mirror them for each other. And the part of me that is very masculine aligned knows how to do that well, because I get to see that in you. And the part of you, I think, that is in connection with your feminine taps into that from me. And so I'm looking forward to finding that balance and getting to see how that plays out.
I love it. Can't wait.
Yay.
First one is, do we know when the date is? There's 3 in December. First one is?
The first Thursday night in December.
First Thursday in December. For some reason, the 4th rings a bell.
I was going to say
Nope,
the
the
5th. Okay, 5th. Yeah, I was right.
5th. Stay tuned for more information. But
yeah.
See you December 5th, hopefully.
See you soon.
All right. Wi-Fi Pod, this is Matt.
This is Jeannie.
Thanks, everyone.